thanks, Donna, for the question. I think I will defer this, but I think that the process that you're going through as you're new in your post and reviewing all of your documentation and procedures will result in this sort of being resolved. But anyone in particular want to tackle it? Mark? Thanks.
Well, it is going to be difficult to tackle. So, it's something you have to face up to, and it's always going to be awkward. But a lot of the time, these issues can be resolved simply through talking. Do you have already the opportunity for having individual feedback, like regular supervision meetings?
No.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a good place to start, is to have an opportunity where one-to-one, on a regular basis, you can both sit down, talk through what the person's been working on, how things have gone, what's not gone so well. Do they have any training needs or areas they want to develop, maybe change the role? So having those in place helps all the way along, so you can pick up small issues before they become bigger, as yours has already. Having a clear role description, obviously you said that yourself, does mean that you've got more of a basis yourself to be able to say, well, this is the role that you're meant to be doing. And it also means that the individual's got the security as well of knowing what their role is, so they know what's being expected of them. Given that you've gone past that stage, you've got the issue now, obviously you want to try and get those things in now, and agree what the role is. One of the issues could be simply that the person hasn't had that clear role and has been given different things to do. And so actually having a discussion about, okay, well, let's fix down what your role is. If there's stuff where she has crossed the line, then you need to raise that now. I mean, it may be that you feel, okay, these issues might be resolved just through defining the role. If you feel that she's already crossed the line, though, you do have to bring that up and be clear what the problem is and why it's a problem. That there's a knock-on effect. It's not just you raising this because you're a new volunteer manager. That you're raising it because there's a problem. That's having an effect on the work. And then try and find what the reason is. Some things can be, like I said, just confusion about the role, or just upset in the way that she's been treated in the past and moved around. It may be that there are small things that you can do to resolve it there and then. It may be that you have to look at changing the role that she's in totally, because she may just be that she's really unhappy with what she's been doing. What ideally you want, though, is steps forward agreed, that things are going to change. And some of it will be on your side, as I say, that having more things in place, so there's more consistency, so having these regular opportunities to talk things through and having the role set out. But also on her side as well, so that the problems are dealt with. And meet again after a period of time to see if there's been progress. Hopefully things can be resolved in that way. If they're not, and there's still a problem, and there's not, she's not making any efforts to resolve it, then ultimately you can ask her to leave. But what I'd say is use the process. Often called nowadays problem-solving procedures around volunteering. So, well, hopefully you can get one from Volunteering England's website. I've just been told that a lot of the stuff's gone behind the paywall. Get my details at the end and I can provide you with one. They're quite simple and straightforward. And they just mean there's a process to go through where you have just basically have a formal meeting. Again, raise the issues that's now formal, allow the person to have a say, possibly to be accompanied as well, so that they're not on their own there. Again, come out at the end with action, which could just be that she'll stop being so nasty. That could be the action. It could be that there are things which you mutually agree to do to resolve. If things don't change, then another meeting, and you may have to ask her to leave. She's not always a bad thing. It sounds a bit bad to say, well, we get rid of a volunteer. Ultimately, if they're not happy and you're not getting anything from the relationship, it's fine to ask volunteers to leave. But what I think we need to do is hopefully find out what's at the root cause of the problem, because 9 times out of 10 it's something which can be dealt with, and it can often be dealt with informally.
Can I just say, I suppose more of a comment really, Mark, that quite often the poor old volunteer manager is prepared to tackle a difficult situation like that, but higher up people will say, oh no, you know, we love all our volunteers, we can't get rid of them, what if they go to the papers, and, you know, very frightened of reputational damage, really. That's just a comment. And I think it really indicates the way that volunteer managers' opinions and expertise are perhaps not valued by senior management in organisations. So, but good luck.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with that. That is an issue. The problem is that's not seen from above is that if you don't tackle things in that way, they can just escalate and get worse. And the longer it goes on, the harder it is to deal with. But I think that's a good general point in the way that volunteer management's used within organisations. It's quite often that, well, you're only managing volunteers. It's not like real management. You know, whereas if you're managing that person as a paid member of staff, ultimately you're saying, well, you do what I say or you're out, and you'll lose your wage. So actually, with volunteer management, it's much more about interpersonal skills and being able to work with people, and it demands more skill than is often recognised. You know, we can talk about how great volunteering is, you know, managers of organisations saying how great volunteering is, and politicians at the moment saying how great volunteering is, but it does always relies on good volunteer management.
I think you've raised a really interesting dilemma, and I think it's probably around more often than than appears to be the case. But people often don't like to mention it because it looks like you're being ungrateful. You're not. I think some of the times what happens is when a volunteer is not behaving in a very easy way in their volunteering place, so they could be having problems at home, there could be all kinds of other things going on with them, which if they were a paid employee, some of that might have come up in supervision. So, I mean, my experience is when I've had people volunteering with me in the past, where that's, you know, when they have been quite difficult to work with, I've tried to find out if there's anything else going on, is there any other support that could be offered. And if they do have to leave the organisation, I would hope that, well, 2 things really. First of all, to try and do some kind of exit interview with them so you get their feedback, they have a chance to sort of have their say about the difficulties that they've had or suggestions for improvement so the organisation can do better with other volunteers in the future. But also I would hope that in some way you could maybe help them to do something else instead. I mean, maybe go back to college or volunteer somewhere else where it might be more suitable for them, or whatever it will. Maybe they need counselling. There's a whole range of things. And I don't want to be too paternalistic either, because that may not be appropriate in all cases. But I think it is very unfortunate, particularly if someone's been volunteering for many years, for them to just feel as it were they've been sort of sacked, you know, even if that may be ultimately what has to happen. Thanks.
There's also a key thing to think about is what's the volunteer's motivation